Hello, hello, and welcome to another ohmTown Daily News Show. I am Mayor Watt, and this is the Daily News Show for January 2nd, 2023. Today we're going to be talking about a toxic aircraft carrier getting scuttled, an antibiotic it's called moon milk, and it's from a cave. We're going to describe an animal that kills most humans, and some people already know what it is, other people don't seem to. There's going to be a non-invasive test that can detect even a trace amount of prostate cancer. Yeah, that's the type of podcast and stream that people are paying for. LexisNexis has a side business of making millions off of virtual crime center data. Vaccination for bees, and Apple sees a quarterly revenue dip. Then we get to talk about some dolphins who are showing up Navy special operators. And Star Wars Visions is about to drop. Well, in a little while. And Senators Cruz and Mencken team up to fight a non-existent gas stove ban. This is an article that I thought was going to be the cream of the crop for tonight. But no, the Pentagon has spotted a Chinese spy balloon flying over northern United States. Let's get into the show. Hello, hello. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com, and the booming voice from on high, the great and powerful AI.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
That booming voice and that slight echo. I can't tell if it's just because it's echoing through ohmTown or if it's just in the hollowness that is my head. I don't know, but we'll deal with it. So we've already selected all of the articles for tonight. If you are interested in them, you can actually go to that little URL down there, ohmtown.showbot.tv. I was going to highlight the 6 categories of shows in which all of the news gets funneled into 50 subchannels. We're actually sitting at 47 because I've deactivated a couple pending some additional news sources. But there's another one that has been kind of vexing people, and that's the podcasts link here. Yes, you don't have to download the podcast. You don't have to go over to YouTube. No, it's not. Anyway, and you don't necessarily have to come to Twitch to listen to the show after the live broadcast. Come and listen to the VOD. But you can go to ohmtown.com and you click on the podcast link, and it'll show you all of the podcasts that have been ported over, and it streams from my storage facility, and you'll be able to listen to it. Unedited, it is the exact same thing as the VOD. It'll have the show notes. It'll have what the podcast has. It won't have the video, although I guess I could do that too. Now that I kind of ponder it, maybe I'll make that an option in the future. But you can go over to YouTube and watch the video, and it'll have the show notes. You can go to ohmtown.showbot.tv and actually click on the links and go over to those resources through ohmTown. And yeah, we're still developing something on the back end. I'm just going to keep on teasing that until it's done. I suppose it doesn't make any difference to everybody who's listening and downloading the podcast anyway. Anything exciting and new out of the realm of the AI that's running ohmTown other than maybe some glitches in ohmTown still? Nothing major?
Nothing major.
Well, as for status reports, that's probably the best status report I can get. Let's get into the news. And the news starts with, Brazil is going to sink a toxic aircraft carrier at sea despite environmental concerns. Yeah, that actually, I'm not surprised by anything in today's world, but what's going on with this is they actually know that it's toxic. Some 300 tons or something like that of um, dangerous chemicals and whatnot on it. And it's worth, well, one government has requested purchasing it. Another said, no, don't send it to us. And so they're going to drop it into the ocean anyway. Um, Kind of shocking. Here in the United States and elsewhere, I'm sure. I don't know about elsewhere's policy. So if you're in chat um, or you hear this and are interested in talking shop about this kind of stuff, come to the show on every day, 9 p.m. Eastern, and let me know what you think of all of this and how your knowledge is about this. You know, what does, if you're from a different country, what do they do around your country? I would love to know. But here in the States, they basically make you power scrub this thing and make sure that there's no toxic anything. You're not even allowed to sink it with diesel in the tank. You have to drain everything and certify that it is clean because when something drops into the ocean, um, containing what this is saying that it contains, which is PCBs, everything dies around it. And this is a huge ship going to go into basically a marine theater. It's going to drop down into the ocean and become something akin to wreck dive, which I love. I absolutely love wreck dives. Diving an aircraft carrier would probably be a dream come true, only because how often do you get to swim around in an aircraft carrier? But there's all kinds of special activities that have to take place. They weld doors open or closed to minimize trapping somebody. They blow holes in the side to scuttle it effectively, yet still make sure that it's secure on the bottom of the ocean. Care and feeding, so to speak, is taken both in making sure that the object is safe for scuttling and for the life that's going to spawn off of it. Not so apparently with this. We'll scroll down a little. This is over at commondreams.org and written by Brett Wilkins. And it says here, we're talking about a ship containing both hazardous materials and valuable materials. It's supposed to be brought into the territory of Brazil and managed in an environmentally sound way. Well, probably not. It's the Sao Paulo, an 870 foot, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Clemenceau class carrier, first commissioned by the French Navy in 1963 as the Foch. Is that it? I don't know.
Be careful how you say that,
I'm gonna.
especially since we're on the first article.
Yeah, we're 8 minutes in, so I can say that I'm gonna fuck that up. I said it correctly. Anyway, it'll be sunk using explosives about 217 miles off of Brazil's coast. So you're out into the exclusive economic zone. And at a depth of about 16,000 feet. So nobody's going to be diving this. So that kind of sucks because nobody can dive 16,000 feet. You have to be a pretty technically sophisticated diver to get down to about 160 feet. And then you're inhaling exotic gases when you go deeper than that. And that's the farthest that I've gone down, 165 feet. And even then, it was just a bounce dive where you just touch the ground and then come back up because, well, you might suffer from pain and suffering if you stay down too long. Anyway, there's all kinds of stuff in this thing, and they're just going to drop it into the ocean. And at 16,000 feet, obviously, it doesn't hurt anybody, and the ocean will take care of it, right?
Well,
No?
and that's what I'm wondering if internationally somebody's going to put a stop to this because it's not going to be a Brazil problem. It's going to be a world problem.
Oh, but it's in their exclusive zone, so
Yeah,
obviously
but
that it just stays there, right?
I mean, the fish don't eat toxic chemicals and then get eaten by larger fish and all that?
No, those toxic chemicals, they stay right there in their spot. You know that they found barrels of PCBs? I think it was off the coast of Oregon a few years ago. And the reason that they found them is because apparently they started leaking again and there was a die off around it. Basically, like an asteroid hit and it just killed everything around it. Um, so no, the stuff doesn't stay. I'm being painfully sarcastic, and this stuff is going to impact, quite a wide berth because it's a ship anyway. Um,
You
but
know what?
out of sight,
I
out of
think
mind.
somebody should buy this. Like we see features in the news about people doing charitable actions. This is millions of dollars. This is not billions.
Yeah,
Somebody could
it's
just purchase this and make sure it's decommissioned safely.
a Saudi business group said that they'd buy it for $6 million, but they said, nah, we're gonna sink it. Mr. Beast could probably buy this.
That's actually what I was thinking of because of that other article.
Mr. Beast is being vilified right now because he's doing this like what are they? I can't remember what they called it right now. They like suffering tourism or tourism suffering,
Oh,
something like
I
that.
saw something about that. I forgot what the term was though.
And frankly, I think that's batshit insane that somebody would vilify Mr. Beast for doing great good and drawing attention to the inadequacy of American healthcare and the cost that people are burdened by when they don't have the leverage that Mr. Beast has in terms of paying um, goodwill to the people doing the treatments and vilifying the medical system, the healthcare system that says you have to be blind because you don't have $8,000. Kind of twisted. So, but see, I I get to see and hear this kind of stuff pretty often, where the actuarial tables of an MBA in the healthcare facilities calculates what you're worth in the long term, and if the return on investment is worth keeping you alive, let alone just fixing your eyes. For crying out loud, it's so dispassionate, all under the auspices of a business's objective is to create profit to the stakeholders. Well, no, it's to maximize benefit. It's to make money, but still can do social good in the same sentence, right? Make money while doing a social good. So lower your profit margins a little bit and help people to the point that you can. And I do it every day. I literally do it every day. People come to me and ask if they can get a certain benefit that I have to offer. And wherein I can, I give it. I have my limits, but I'm not Mr. Beast. So why aren't other people doing the same thing? Well, it shouldn't be out of the kindness of somebody's heart as just a regular Joe. Mr. Beast is a famous but regular Joe. It really should be incumbent on our society as a whole. We pay into the taxpayer system. If you one day need it and you don't, and all this time you've been poo-pooing the idea of government and society helping each other, you keep poo-pooing it. I don't want to pay into it. I don't use those services. And the one day you do and you start bitching about it, the entire social order should be able to get in line and smack you across the face because you're sociopathic to think that one day that you're immune to something like this. I mean, do you remember Trading Places?
Yes.
That's all it takes is somebody saying, hey, let's flip the script, right? That's all it takes. Some bad turn of event, just a bad turn of events, and you're down and out and try and struggle to get back into, uh, you know, even a benefit to yourself. You can't even help yourself when you're blind because of cataracts.
Yep.
Such a
And all it
struggle.
takes is one day to completely change your life in one direction for
Yeah.
something. It could be that or something else.
For at least years, right? So cataracts may return, but it's at least years away of a massively improved quality of life. And they vilify the guy. How we got there from here, it's basically the same thing. You can't sit there and just in a vacuum do something and not worry about the impact that it's going to have a knock-on effect onto the rest of the world. Think about it. But got mine, screw you, bye-bye. Get off my lawn. Anyway, let's move on to the next article. I soapboxed for 12 minutes. So the next article is in the Word in Tech, and it's lumamycin, right? Like, like what is it? What's the other stuff?
Erythromycin or whatever.
Yeah. So this is lunamycin, a new antibiotic extracted from moon milk. When I say that, I have to say it like that because it sounds weird. Moon milk deposits. So what are moon milk deposits? It's a mineral deposit found in caves and used for its curative properties, and part of a study conducted by scientists from the University of Liège. Is that pronounced properly? Liège? And the Hedera 22 spin-off. I'm just going to go over to the source, which is, of course, phys.org. Well, I love phys.org, but man, sometimes when you're walking down this paragraph and you move on to the next paragraph, your brain gets tied up in a knot, and I need probably another subject matter expert. Okay, this is a new one. Twitch just dropped my transfer rate to below 1,000. So I
Oh
don't
no.
know. Yeah, I don't know how it's recording right now. So it just says that it's unstable, but it's not me. I've got a backup recording, so we'll continue on. But
You're not
this is
unstable?
I am unstable. That's for sure. University de Liège, I guess it's pronounced that way, is the source of this. Since the dawn of time, human beings have been able to draw on the environment for resources, techniques, and sometimes beliefs to protect themselves from disease and care for their health. While the effectiveness of certain ancestral practices has been demonstrated and endorsed by modern society, modern medicine, the rationality of many traditional medicines remains misunderstood and even suspect. Well, this is the case for the use of moon milk, a concretion frequently found in various forms. I'm going to say this all quote. I'm going to quote this. This is okay. Now I'm streaming at 25,000 kilobits per second, which is beyond my network's capacity. Anyway, here's to this.
It's going haywire today.
Here's to this actually functioning in any real way. Oh well. Maybe this is one where I'm going to have to redo another day. Anyway, moon milk comes in pasty, dry, or liquid forms and in limestone caves, a remedy used for curative purposes. Speleothem. This speleothem is most often observed in the form of a soft rock, depending on its hygrometry, so how moist it is. A sort of mineral cheesecake, explains Sebastian Regali. Sounds like a wizard from Harry
Yes,
Potter.
exactly. Or maybe like a villain from a cartoon or something.
But just like wizardry, they're a molecular microbiologist at the Center for Protein Engineering, or CIP, in BIOS, Faculty of Science of the, I guess, University Liège. Quote, there is a lot of archaeological evidence of its use as an anti-infectious agent, mainly in the Swiss and Austrian Alps. Well, I guess this is where they find it. Expeditions to search for and collect moon milk deposits in the Walloon Karst. There must be more to this, but I'm not going to get really deep into this thing. Let's just say that this is a new form of antibiotic, potentially. and they're going to be doing some additional research on exactly what it's capable of. We're always looking for new antibiotics, and we tend as humans to build up a resistance to it. And whatever is in us that doesn't die yet is a bug becomes a little bit more powerful, and we end up having to leverage ever more powerful antibiotics, and that can create super strains. And antibiotics aren't really good for humans. They are and they aren't. They're like the soft form of chemotherapy. It kills everything in our bloodstream, which is not good. And then our natural immune system builds up a little bit and recovers, and hopefully we don't still have this bug floating around inside us. Well, it is an antibiotic named lumamycin and produced by a bacterium called Streptomyces lunalactis. Interesting. Lunamycin and lunalactis, referring to the ecological niche from which the molecule and bacterium originate, the moon milk. That's all I'm going to say about this. So awesome that there are people out there that are running around and scraping things off of walls, because apparently it can be something more than it looks like to average Joes like me. I swear, if I ever walked into a cave and scraped something off the wall and licked it.
I mean, that's where we had like the Ebola outbreak, is from that kind of event, not the licking, but just the scraping things off of cave walls.
This is how you get C24, and it's because Mayor Watt decided to go climbing around in a cave in ohmTown and lick a bad bat. I petted it first. Anyway, the next article is in the Word in Tech. What animal kills the most humans? Here's the unexpected predator and how to protect yourself. I never thought in a million years that this would have been news, but it is, because I've always heard that it is what I'm about to say.
So I know what it is because I looked at the article and I didn't know specifically, but I had an idea what it was. I think people probably think it's something much different than this.
But that's what it is.
Right.
There.
I mean, don't they probably think of like predator cats or, like lions or something like that?
Something other than a mosquito.
Right.
Or a mosquito.
Or snakes or something. I don't know.
Something else, right? But no, mosquitoes, that's what it is. What animal kills the most humans? But I thought maybe the way that they phrase that animal, it's an insect, isn't it?
It is. But it's still part of the same animal kingdom in biology.
There's the technical, like, a banana isn't a fruit. No, just whatever. Everybody says that it's a fruit. So this isn't an animal. This is an insect, a mosquito. Anyway, Claire Mulroy is the author of this over at phys.org. It says, according to a 2015 poll from Ipsos, about half of Americans said that they were absolutely terrified of sharks, and almost 40% said that they're scared to swim in the ocean because of sharks. But according to a Florida Museum of Natural History, there were only 11 shark-related fatalities worldwide in 2021, which I thought that would be a tremendous amount. I don't know.
I didn't even think about sharks. I don't know why I was thinking of land animals.
They're talking about land sharks from Saturday Night Live back in the 70s, I think it was, the land shark. But when it comes to dangerous animals, which species kills the most? Dun, dun, dun. I'd always heard about mosquito nets and them being very important to stopping mosquitoes from killing people around the world. And so, we've donated to causes to facilitate getting mosquito nets, and try and enlighten people about not leaving water in tires and things like that, because I had always heard that mosquitoes are very dangerous, very deadly. So there you have it, folks. That's pretty much what's going on here. Mosquitoes can transmit life-threatening diseases like malaria and dengue. Dengue fever is the thing. And the World Health Organization estimates that mosquitoes that carry these diseases kill 725,000 people a year. Now, in the grand scheme of things, somebody's going to say, well, that's not that big of a deal because it's 700, but these are preventable deaths, right? From something as simple as not leaving water standing in humid places where it's contaminated, like tires and stuff like that, and other water basins that aren't flowing. Because the mosquito larva won't survive in flowing water. It has to be the standing water that just kind of lets it fester. And mosquito nets can save lives. These are preventable deaths, right? And there are other things that are preventable as well, right? So you wear a mask because there's a pandemic. You get a vaccine because there's a pandemic. You stay beyond arm's reach because there's a pandemic. You get tested and stuff like that, right? This is as simple as getting nets manufactured for, fractions of a penny per person. Now there are places. Go ahead.
I was going to say that to put that number into perspective, at least in the United States, that's more people than live in the nation's capital, the District of Columbia.
Yeah, well, this is...
and that's per year.
Right. Yeah, how many people live in Wyoming?
Less than that. I think it's about 500,000. In the District of Columbia, it's 600 and some thousand.
Yeah. So just to put it in perspective, that beyond just the number, these are preventable. And it's as simple as, humans being human and donating a few pennies to save thousands of lives. Now, that's all around the world, but it's largely not here in the United States. It's largely not in Western Europe or the UK. It's usually in more humid areas and hot areas and less affluent areas, I guess you could say, which is, it's all just a shame. We have so much technology. The whole of mankind could be made different, or humankind. Let me be a little bit more sensitive about that. At any rate, let's move on. Again, I feel a soapbox building itself underneath me. So the next article, and I'll do this one really fast because nobody really wants to do a deep dive into prostate cancer, but a non-invasive test can detect even trace elements of prostate cancer. This is pretty much an issue for everybody. At some point in their life, they do this little test. They either get a colonoscopy or, as I've been describing it to people, you poo in a box and ship it off to somebody. I get to pretend that I'm a cat, basically, and I get to sit there and send it off to somebody and say, that's right, you get to look at my poo. But anyway, it's in the word in tech. Cedars-Sinai cancer investigators have developed a new nanotechnology-based test that can detect and profile prostate cancers, even in microscopic amounts. And, of course, this is over at phys.org. I think the stream has recovered of no manipulation of my own, but we'll see how it plays out on the other side. If you're in chat and you want to let yourself be known and let me know that the stream is going okay, that would be great. But maybe people have come in and left because of the poor Twitch connection. Anyway, this research will revolutionize the liquid biopsy in prostate cancer, said Edwin Posadas, MD, medical director of the Urologic Oncology Program and co-director of the Experimental Therapeutics Program at Cedars-Sinai Cancer. I don't know why they would call it that. Maybe throw center at the end of it so that it's a little bit softer. Anyway, they have a quote here. The test is fast, minimally invasive, and cost-effective, and opens up a new suite of tools that will help us optimize treatment and quality of life for prostate cancer patients. Wonderful. So, and they talk about what prostate is. It's a walnut-sized gland just below the bladder. Yeah. Quite a lot of people get prostate cancer, and that can turn into much worse if it isn't remedied or even detected. And we've moved away more and more from really invasive colonoscopies. Basically, have been really the go-to for reviewing all of this for colon cancer. And then there's been a good push over to this analysis of feces, and now you've gotten to the point where it's just a little bit of a thing and you're done, which I think is great. Here's to technology not making me go get a tube. I'll just leave it alone. Okay, so hey, what have you heard about LexisNexis, folks? You know, I can be real about a lot of things. Yeah, really. You know what else feels like getting a colonoscopy? Paying for LexisNexis as a sole proprietor of a practice. Maybe that's a bad comparison. Guess who's not going to be running ads in ohmTown?
Oh no, we lost another potential sponsor.
That's right. LexisNexis is not going to be very happy with me. Anyway, the data company LexisNexis makes millions of dollars selling dedicated tools to law enforcement and other U.S. government agencies, according to a contracting data and agency documents reviewed by Motherboard. Of course, this is going to be over at vice.com. We want to know another company that has a lucrative police or law enforcement contract?
Is it LexisNexis's competitor or something else?
Zappos.
Oh, that's odd.
They actually sell the tread designs because forensic investigations, they do a shoe print, they can track it to what shoe is actually of that pattern, and it's outsourced, so it's somebody else that's recording all of these tread patterns, and then they just license it, and ta-da, I can do a search and analysis to see if it matches. It's quite brilliant.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
And there are other companies that do the same thing. Genealogy is doing it now, which is really creepy because, well, it just is. Anyway, the contract highlights LexisNexis I got tongue-tied on that. Often overlooked government work, which includes capabilities that stretch beyond its ordinary people search or articles database available to consumers and businesses. One of those is the Virtual Crime Center. That's interesting. Are they not talking in any way about the fact that LexisNexis is tied directly into law?
Yeah, I mean, that seems like they would highlight that.
Okay, maybe it's actually in the article itself. This is an article over at vice.com under Motherboard Tech by Vice and written by Joseph Cox. It says procurement records and documents obtained through FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests, highlight LexisNexis's often overlooked business of selling data to the government. A lot of businesses do. So yeah, it looks like a heat map of crime. Wow.
Maybe it is. I can't tell if that's what it's showing.
Right? I don't know. Well, to me, it looks like a heat map. And with as many pins as you move towards higher density, the color changes. I'm sure if there was a way to, vacate the pins and still keep the heat map, that's what you'd end up with. So let's see here. Virtual Crime Center, a system for linking public records with agencies' own internal data sets and those from other agencies. So basically a nexus of Lexus. Oh, that's a good name for a company. Anyway, today's law enforcement agencies need a view beyond their own jurisdictions. LexisNexis Accurate Virtual Crime Center, that rolls off the tongue, brings together disconnected data from over 10,000 different sources, including police agencies nationwide, and public records for intelligence-led policing that can drive decisions and actions, so turning data into information. Interesting. So the Secret Service paid around $400,000 a year from 2020 to 2022. That's nothing if you were looking at healthcare. That's like one day after heart surgery. The Intercept previously covered ICE's purchase of LexisNexis data. Documents obtained by immigrant advocacy organization Just Futures Law later found ICE searched that data over 1 million times in 7 months. Well, if you're paying $400,000, you got to knock down that per search price. You know, the public has to pay an extraordinary amount per page to get to the publicly aggregated data. Like, it's astronomical how much it's public information because it's all funded by taxpayers. But to get that data, you have to pay, if it's valuable or not, because you don't know what the search results are going to pan out as, you still pay per page. And I can't remember what it is. It was either 10 cents or 25 cents or something like that when I last looked into it. That said, like all Vice articles, this goes into a much deeper dive, but suffice it to say that along with Big Brother is Little Sister, and you can't extract one from the other. They are intimately tied together because taxpayer dollars are paying for the private sector development, and things go from tactical to practical and then as a contract back to government. So really, we're all getting juiced. Now, I have no problem. In spirit, I have no problem. But when nobody else can get access to it except for the taxpayer dollars through proxy of government agency, therein lies the rub. But then,
particularly if it's taxpayer funded
to begin
information, right?
Right.
This
And it has to be.
relatives, neighbors, and associates piece is kind of concerning, but I suppose that's standard in law enforcement.
Yeah, so Zach Edwards, a security researcher who follows the data trading ecosystem, told Motherboard in an online chat that relatives, neighbors, and associates information is totally alarming. It would appear that LexisNexis has taken the concept of friends and family plans to a whole new creepy level by creating consumer profiles available for purchase to the government with details about people's close personal contacts. By the way, it's illegal for the federal government to do that because they are forbidden from creating dossiers on citizens within the country. So the FBI can't do it without cause. The CIA can't work within the United States, supposedly. But we all know that that's not what, I mean, it's all available one way or another. But supposedly, the government is not allowed to create a dossier unless there is a cause of action within the government for them to point their.
Or you're a government employee and they've got all kinds of information on you through background checks, which includes things like neighbors.
But you buy into it when you become a civil servant or a government agent. So SF-86 is there, and you have to fill it out. It's not like they can just do it. Well, yeah, we all know that the people that have the power abuse that power. And I've already talked about it multiple times in ohmTown about the fact that people working for the FBI or the police or whatever exploit that access because they want to find out about, their brother's girlfriend or whatever it might be, or they want to spy on a potential love interest. Hell, there's I suspect that, somebody could be doing that to me because they were once involved in that field. And you just sit there and go, okay, you're either going to be paranoid and think like that, or you're just going to write it off. And if anything, if you ever do find out about something, then you just drop the hammer on them legally. And this is just beyond the pale, because it's a private organization that's building these dossiers on people and then selling them to the government. So it isn't the government that's doing it, it's Little Sister. And Little Sister is making money. Again, all kinds of people are not going to be advertising in ohmTown now. So let's move on to the next article, and maybe this will change their minds, because we're going to be talking the bees' knees and making them happy and healthy and buzzing. It's all the buzz that bees are getting vaccinated now. You know who doesn't have to wear a mask anymore?
I guess the bees.
Bees. Yeah. Beekeepers could soon have a new option for protecting hives from a devastating disease. Their first vaccine. My first vaccine for bees. If anybody is a writer out there, you now have a book. Vaccination for bees doesn't sting. They had to work hard to get that as a workable title, because it doesn't really make any sense. DeLynn Ford, North Carolina State University. Earlier this month, the U.S. Department of Agriculture gave conditional approval to a new product from Georgia biotech company Dallin Animal Health that targets a bacterial disease called American foul brood. Why do they have to slap that on there? Why not freedom foul brood? Something, I don't know. That's not the right thing to call it either. It's not a vaccine in the traditional sense. Immunity is conferred by treating the queen, meaning no bees will be waiting in line for shots, says David Tarpey. I'm telling you, this is just a Bug's Life 2.0. A professor and extension specialist in apiculture with North Carolina State University. There is a game, by the way, on Steam called Apico, I think, or Apico. I'm not sure what the pronunciation is, but it's all about taking care of bees. It's kind of like a base builder around bees. It's pretty cool. Go look it up. You won't regret it. Anyway, somebody, and I'm assuming that it's Dylan Ford over at North Carolina State University, said that we asked Tarpey to explain the science behind the new option and what it could mean for beekeepers. It's not me asking this, but Professor Tarpey says that they believe this is the first registered product of its kind for insects, since so few are domesticated insects under the USDA veterinary umbrella. Can you imagine having like a dachshund-sized bee that's domesticated and you take it for walks or flights?
I think that sounds cute.
But if you pet it the wrong way, it stings you. It's like having a single quill porcupine. It is based on a research paradigm demonstrated first on beetles, then on other insects, until finally being shown on honeybees, that suggests transgenerational immune priming, or TGIP. Neat. So you expose the mother to the pathogen and cure them, or build up their resistance to it, and then all of their eggs are less susceptible to the same strain of the same disease. And according to this, it's not genetic manipulation or a permanent change, because it's basically within that one queen and integrated naturally into their system. It isn't like CRISPR and they're modified at the genetic level, which I don't know if the genetics would impact the offspring of even somebody that's genetically modified, unless it's something having to do with the biogenesis.
Like the sex chromosomes.
Correct. Yeah. It would have to spawn in the reproductive organs. So, the research funded and published by this company suggests a modest 30 to 50% reduction in the infection of inoculated larvae in a controlled laboratory setting. So it's unclear at this point, however, how well it will translate into real-world environment. Neat. So I wonder if they're running around. How did they? So yeah, that's my next question. How do they vaccinate honeybees? So beekeepers mix the product, in essence, dead cells of the bacterium that causes the disease, into queen candy, which I think is um, it's like a concentrated pollen. I can't remember what it looks like. Anyway, it says a major part of their diet is sugar. The workers then feed the queen, which in turn primes the eggs that she lays to have this transgenerational immune priming. So yeah, she basically becomes the factory that makes the bees less susceptible to American brood, whatever it's called, foul brood. That's just sad. So okay, let's move on to the next article. And this next article is Apple quarterly revenue dips 5%, missing Wall Street forecasts as services biz posts record sales of just shy of $21 billion. Apple revenue declined 5% in the year-end 2022 quarter amid iPhone manufacturing disruptions and fell short of Wall Street's earnings estimates, which I think that they're like always growing. But its growth slowed in the period to a 6.4% year-over-year increase. Those bastards.
I can't believe the revenue dropped. I don't think we were talking right before the show, but I don't remember that ever happening.
So this is over at Variety.com by Todd Spangler. And although the revenue declined, it's still, I guess, in a weird way, the decline was what was anticipated, not necessarily the ultimate number, because it's still it just slowed down to a 6.4% year over year increase. So not only did they meet their costs and their expected growth, it just, their internal rate of return might have been something different than what everybody else was saying it needed to be 5% higher. So they ended with still 6.4% year over year growth from whatever it was last year to the end of that fiscal period. 6.4%, still twice as much as anybody's cost of living increase, to the tune of billions of dollars, not just, $3,000 raise if you're lucky. So overall, the tech giant reported $117.2 billion on the top line and net income of $30 billion, down 13%, or $1.88 per share for the quarter ended December 31st, the actual calendar year. Interesting, which is Apple's Q1 fiscal year 2023. So they're actually rotated a quarter. Analysts on average expected Apple to post revenue of $121.1 billion. So yeah, they were down a little bit, and earnings per share of $1.94 per share. Hey, you know what? They're mitigating the losses. So because China is their main manufacturer, and now they're rotating out of China, even bringing some of their production home, starting to work on domestic battery creation, domestic chip manufacturing, domestic glass manufacturing in partnership. If I recall correctly, they're doing all of these things because they've put all of their eggs in one basket, and now somebody's going around kicking that basket. So you can't sit there and say, we don't have a pandemic problem. Meanwhile, you have record deaths in China, and say, well, there isn't anything impacting our production, yet nothing is being produced on time and shipped out on time. Yeah, it's all marketing bullshit. And frankly, businesses that are to the tune of $121 billion worth of revenue they have the coffers to go somewhere else. Smaller businesses, not so much. But let's move on to the next article. Let's just keep on hustling through these. We've got 3 more articles after this one. Here's what happens when U.S. Navy special operators go up against dolphins, trained to keep them out of sensitive bases. I have to say it. All your bays are belong to, well, dolphins and seals. That's a meme that the AI probably isn't privy to just yet because it's a gaming thing. Anyway, let's just go over to the source. This is at businessinsider.com, which this news round did not dominate our feeds. So Stavros Atlamazoglu. Yeah.
I was looking at that name, just waiting for you to pronounce it. You did pretty well.
Atlamazoglu. One of my advising professors had a similar name, so
You
I
had
tried
some
to say it
practice.
fast, but my brain still locked up. My brain said it perfectly, my tongue not so much. So here is Zach, a Navy SEAL. No, just kidding. This is a different SEAL. This is
It
not a
might be a
U.S.
Navy SEAL, just not a Navy SEAL.
It is a Navy SEAL, just not a Navy special operator. Wait, it could be a Navy special operator that happens to be a SEAL.
Right, but not a Navy SEAL that happens to be an operator. I don't know.
Well, my fate is sealed if I keep going down this line. So those mammals are very real and very scary, says a former U.S. Navy SEAL. Not that Navy SEAL. There is that Navy SEAL saying, "Oh, they are really scary under the water."
So for those on the podcast, the photo is of an animal seal, not a person.
uh, so the U.S. Navy has been training dolphins and sea lions to detect undersea threats since the 1960s. Is that a sea lion? Yeah, it's a California sea
Actually, it's a
lion.
sea lion. I said it was a seal, but
So did I. Through this whole thing, nobody was the wiser unless they saw the VOD. Now they know that we're just we're liars. We're frauds. Over the years, the Navy has put those animals up against its most skilled human operators. When did operator become all the rage as the terminology? The nom de guerre. I feel like it,
it's been around for a while, I thought.
but I swear I've only heard it like regularly used in maybe the last 4 years, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't paying any attention. So there's a picture here. Marine mammal program members demonstrate the capabilities of a dolphin in Corpus Christi in May of 2009. And it looks like he's doing a backflip. But yeah, they send out these dolphins and sea lions, and then special operators go out to try and gain access to various secure locations. But these dolphins and sea lions pull no punches and jack their shit up a bit. And one of the quotes that I saw in the snippet was very real and very scary. So, in order to find ways to defeat Soviet dolphins and sea lions and to ensure its own mammals were effective, the Navy turned to an elite human force, the U.S. Navy SEALs. So, it's been happening for a while. There was one where it's a type of whale, a really small whale, but it would do things. It was trained, yet what it was when I had seen the article many years ago now, I think it's been many years, it just showed up and gave somebody on a boat something that they had dropped, I think. And then they just started playing with this thing, this little whale. I wish I could look right now, but I just can't. Anyway, the Navy will often take or task SEALs to quote unquote attack its most prized warships while they're in port to determine if their force protection plan is functioning. And mammals and their handlers will play defense and try to kill or capture the enemy combat swimmers, a former Navy SEAL officer told Insider. Quote, "This is good training for us because we might be called one day to place a limpet mine on an actual enemy ship. The former SEAL officer said, speaking on the condition of anonymity, because they still work with the U.S. government. Well, once a SEAL, always a SEAL.
So the thing you mentioned was a beluga whale that was thought to be a spy was caught on camera returning a woman's phone.
Yeah, what a trip, right?
Yes.
And there's a picture and everything of it.
Yes, there is. And the other thing is that the term operator originated in the 1950s, but it might not have really taken off outside of that community until recently.
Yeah, I truly believe I haven't heard it until recently. I mean, I wasn't around in the 50s, so you might have been. Just not
I
the
mean, AIs are timeless, right?
wow, that's actually quite funny because the AI in Dunkstar's channel is timeless_exe, which again, I had no idea he was an AI until they started talking about him being an AI recently. Maybe I blacked it out and just, I don't know. Anyway, one of these days, y'all can have a AI play date. I don't know what that would amount to other than maybe global domination like the movie War Games.
Oh, that's a good movie.
Let's move on to the next article. In essence, the uh, the dolphins and the sea lions kicked the Navy SEALs' butts. So, because they have no compunction, it's not like they feel bad for harming somebody, right? So they'll just, and they're faster. It is their native arena. So there is no Navy SEAL that can swim faster than a dolphin or a sea lion. And a sea lion clamping onto a Navy SEAL's leg is, well,
Well,
it'll
we
slow them
we
down.
saw the teeth in the picture.
Um, it was creepy when I was diving and stuff would swim around by my hoses. I was always worried that something would bite the line and I'd have to go into rescue myself mode.
That sounds kind of terrifying.
Yeah, it's more interesting when it happens to somebody else and you're the one that's buddy diving with them. But when it's yourself, you're like, oh, it's going down, and by going down, it's me
Literally
sinking. Yeah,
to the bottom of the ocean.
that's right. That's when you start hitting your tank with your dive knife, trying to get people's attention, and they're always looking in the opposite direction. Anyway, we won't talk about it anymore. The word in tech is where this next article is. Star Wars Visions Season 2 drops on May the 4th be with you. Because of course it does. It's been more than a year since Star Wars Visions first touched down on Disney Plus and immediately stunted on the rest of the franchise with its very inspired visuals and genuinely fresh stories. This is kind of a short story kind of a thing. It's an animated anthology would probably be what the Charles Pulliam Moore wrote for The Verge. Lucasfilm has finally announced when the second season of its breathtaking animated anthology series is coming back and shared some new details about the new shorts. So if you haven't seen the first one, go check out the first season, Star Wars Visions, over on Disney Plus. There have been other Star Wars projects in the interim, but none of them have really come close to touching Visions in terms of making the fictional galaxy feel like a wild new place full of promise. But thankfully, the wait is over for Visions is going to be arriving May the 4th. The article goes into a lot more detail, but it's interesting. It says, with Volume 2, we expanded our canvas to take audiences on a global tour of some of the most talented creators from around the world. What does this look like to you? AI from on high? You want to take a stab at it? You'll have to get creative with your processes. Maybe reach into Midjourney and Chat GPT and see if you can come up with something. No,
It's not ringing a bell for me.
it looks just like the MCU provision of like phases in which movies are coming out when, and this, it just has that same type of marketing style. I don't know what it is about it, but it's like they call it volume 2, but it's like these are coming out first and these are coming out next and these are coming out next. um, we're going into seasons now that feel different than how seasons were when I was younger, um, where you only have 8, 9, 10 episodes and then it's done. And you have to wait a whole year for another batch to show up. Whereas, like Star Trek used to have episode after episode after episode, and they were actually fun to watch every single week. And it just was a constant refrain of another show, another show. Now, again, you get 8 if you're lucky. Um, I don't know if the quality has gotten better, um, but I guess now I'm more discerning about what I watch because I have only a finite amount of time. I'll end up watching this, though. I'm sure we all will, actually, here in ohmTown. We'll check it all out. So it says, though you can glean a little from some of the episodes' titles, Lucasfilm doesn't share much in the way of details about the Vision's second batch of episodes, what they'll be about. But when you look at the titles, or the companies that are doing something for the show, um, I bet you I could probably discern like the stylistic um, presentation of their short, like the cartoon saloon one will be a little bit more cartoony, but punk robot will be more mechanical and focus on the robot side of things, just because it says punk robot, right? I'm just totally judging a book by its cover. El Guari, I guess that's how you pronounce that. Guiri. Um, what do you think that'll be?
It looks like it'll be mysterious or maybe like Asian elements or something. I don't know, just
Oh,
from the
really?
writing style. I can't really see if it has characters over that.
Yeah, it's just little eyes. It says El
Uh,
Guiri.
but
Um,
I don't really know.
yeah, it's fun to do a little judging a book by its cover, and then when you get to watch it and you're like, oh, I was not expecting that. So Chile's Punk Robot has produced In the Stars from writer director Gabriel Osario, um, and the UK studio Aardman will debut director Magdalena Osinska's I Am Your Mother. Interesting. There's a whole lot to unpack here, folks, so follow that link, and then come back tomorrow and talk shop with me. That would be great. The AI from on high will be here too. Got a couple more articles, and then we're going to be done for the night. If you're arriving late, let me know. Senators Cruz and Mencken team up to fight a non existent gas stove ban. Their fossil fuel donors are sure getting their money's worth. Let's just go straight over to HuffPost. Chris D'Angelo is the author of this. And yeah, so there was a study that was done on natural gas stoves in general, that they don't burn entirely clean. And if you don't have enough airflow, you're contaminating your house with off gases of some kind, unspent natural gas fuel, right? And it actually could have a slight leak, an invisible leak that you never know. Much like, toilet tanks actually have these slow, invisible leaks that you never know about, that drive your costs up, and then you're surprised by a massive water bill. Same thing can happen with your gas, and it just leaks into the house. You don't necessarily know about it, and maybe that's what's turning people into sociopaths. But I blame lead paint and lead gas. Um, So, Republicans have spent the last 3 weeks manufacturing public outrage that the Biden administration plans to send jackbooted federal agents to seize gas kitchen appliances. They're doing that with the IRS as well, saying that all of these 86,000 new IRS hires are going to be armed to the teeth and demanding their $140 of shortfall on your taxes. But no, dimwits, that's not how it works. And it's over an extraordinary period of time and replacement capital. It isn't suddenly a ramp up of 86,000 IRS agents that are going to go storming. I do expect it from, well, let's just say, if things don't change, I do expect it from a certain administration, but we'll see. We'll see if that's made manifest. Anyway, they say, I can tell you one thing. They're not taking my gas stove, Mencken chuckled during a committee hearing Thursday. The federal government doesn't have any business telling American families how to cook their dinner. Actually, no. They do fundamental research and then inform the public as to harm that might befall them, hopefully before they are harmed by the very thing that, let's take cigarettes, for instance. For years, everybody was told, because the doctors were bought off, hey, cigarettes are better than the air that you're breathing because it has minty menthol or is all natural. No. And the government and healthcare workers were telling people for decades, this is wrong, this is bad, it's causing cancer. Yet others were saying, no, it's good for you, and paying off doctors. And then investigators would get involved, government investigators would get involved and shut that shit down and save people's lives. And now we have a world where people aren't smoking as much, and it's slowly dying off as something that is even necessary. Ta-da. Well, it's the same thing with cooking with gas in a house that doesn't have enough airflow. It is the government's job to protect the public from things that are, I guess, cooked up in somebody's imagination as being healthy. Yeah. So all of this is nothing more than fear mongering that somebody's going to come and take it. What's going to be done is recommendations that people don't use gas stoves because there isn't enough ventilation in houses and it can't be burned cleanly. Just because you light a match or the igniter on your stove and there is a flame, it doesn't mean that it's burning 100% perfectly clean. That's not how it works. And if you've ever walked into a kitchen where it's a gas stove, you can actually smell the gas. The additive that's in the gas isn't burned off all the way because it's bound to the molecule of gas that is not burned all the way. So Mencken continues, I can tell you the last thing that would ever leave our house is the gas stove we cook on. Right, because you're probably going to end up dying of gas poisoning or something in your kitchen, and they're going to take you out on a stretcher, and then everybody that survives you is going to go, hey, let's get rid of that gas oven. I think now's a good time to get rid of that gas oven. Anyway, so and it says in the article, unless Mencken renovated his kitchen, he isn't cooking with gas, at least while he's in Washington, D.C. A 2004 article in the Washington Post about the 65-foot houseboat he lives on when he's in town notes that the designer kitchen boasts a full-size electric stove. Dipshit.
So he's clamoring or complaining about they're taking away our gas stoves and he doesn't even use one.
Right. Because it isn't his message, it's the people that are paying him. Every single politician needs to have clothing that is like a NASCAR's paint job, right? The bigger the name on the paint, the more money is controlling the puppet, and all of them, to some degree, are puppets. I want to see jackets that have little names on them because then they're being representative of their constituents and not just the people that are paying them. I really doubt that any of these people that are fighting all of this crap are really have any desire to fight that way, but they're not going to get a big donation unless they, you know, pimp the wares of the other people. Like, hey, you want policy this way? You know, fill this pocket with $25,000. Come to my dinner on my gas stove that's actually an electric range. Whatever. Let's move on to the next. This is the last article for tonight. I'm feeling a little, I don't know, snarky. I'm kind of pushing my snark button a lot. So this last article for the night is in the Mobile Channel. And have you ever woken up and thought that there's a Chinese spy balloon flying outside your window? Well, it might be
I'm
true.
normally awake at all hours, but except when I'm doing updates or something. But no, that is not something that I've thought about.
Well, I need to train the AI's eyes to the skies because the Pentagon says a suspected Chinese spy balloon is flying over northern US. I don't know why they don't just blow it out of the sky. It's up above. It doesn't have clearance over our airspace.
I'm surprised they're letting it go if that's what it is.
The
Maybe they
US
don't know what it is.
Kids everywhere are grabbing binoculars and looking up. The U.S. government is monitoring a suspected Chinese surveillance balloon that has been flying over the northern part of the country since earlier this week, but has held off on shooting it out of the sky, senior defense officials confirmed on Thursday. Quote, the United States government has detected and is tracking a high-altitude surveillance balloon that is over the continental United States right now. Spokesperson Brigadier General Pat Ryder told reporters the U.S. government continues to track and monitor it closely. Hey, look, it's a piñata for the government. Go and blow it out of the sky. Why? What is this? Anyway, Ellen Mitchell, I don't know why the video was playing somewhere in the background, so we don't know really. Here, I'll refresh this and see what it pops up. Nothing. Okay, well, anyway. Ellen Mitchell over at The Hill wrote this article, and it says, Ryder stressed the balloon is currently traveling in the atmosphere at an altitude well above commercial air traffic and does not present a military or physical threat to people on the ground, and noted that after the balloon was detected, the government acted immediately to protect against the collection of sensitive information. Really? I would suspect the only way to do that would be to blow it out of the sky. I would pop that balloon and then you get all of the forensic evidence from it.
Right. I mean, if it would land on the ground, then they could study it.
That's what aliens say about us. President Biden was briefed on the balloon and asked for military options, with Milley and Van Herk recommending he not to take kinetic action due to the risk to safety and security of people on the ground from the possible debris field. Kinetic action? Is that code for blowing it out of the sky?
Yeah, I was going to say, is that a euphemism for shooting something?
Can you really not shoot something that, shoot something that isn't explosive and massive? A BB gun will pop a balloon. Just fly an F-16 up there and just hang out the window and shoot it a couple of times with a BB gun or a pellet gun. I mean, pretty much the same thing. Anyway, we had been looking at whether there was an option yesterday to down the balloon over some sparsely populated area of Montana. Just anywhere in Wyoming would be fine. But we just couldn't buy down the risk enough. Interesting to feel comfortable recommending shooting it down yesterday. Okay, so wait until it's over Texas or something. I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah,
But I
what
think
are
it's
the people going to feel like when they do shoot it down over a different state?
yeah,
Like, oh, we cared about the Montana citizens, but not fill in
that's
the
right.
blank.
Somebody's gonna bitch. They just are. Hey, you're not doing anything with this balloon from China that's spying on us. Oh, and now you've brought it down in our state instead of their state. That's right. Screw them, not us. You know, it's like a NIMBY thing.
Oh, yes.
What else is in here? Tensions between the United States and China. Oh, did you hear about the general, the 4-star general that's like in charge of mobilization of some kind, saying that we're going to go to war with China in 2025. Like he's all
No,
up. He's all up in
I'm
that grill saying, I'm going to do it.
I missed that headline.
Yeah. So, yeah, nothing says, hey, let's calm things down. Let's back off. Let's not stomp our foot on the thin pedal on the right. Let's just ease off. Cooler heads prevail. Like we're going to war in 2025. Yeah. Yeah, and then giving the bird to all of the like he literally said that y'all got to get ready to kill Chinese people. That's what the dude said. I'm flabbergasted. I I'm surprised that it's not in this article either, because this 4-star general supposedly said that. Um, Now I'll have to find it. Maybe I'll. It was in the ohmTown aggregation, but I didn't pull it in. Um, anyway, I'll find it and then maybe I'll include it in tomorrow's. If it's within the last 24 hours, we'll talk about it again. That isn't really the article that I want to end with, talking about going to war, but it is relevant to this because there's a Chinese spy balloon flying over the northern U.S. Several years ago, I was warned that food was going to get expensive, and it became expensive. And it was just some random statement by some random tertiary person, not on the forefront of, situational awareness for the direction of food across the country and the world. And they were right. Now there's some random Joe, granted 4-star general, but maybe there's a lot of 4-star generals out there because nobody talks about the 4 stars. They talk about the 5-star generals, which hasn't happened since like World War II. But at any rate, um, uh, just this one dude just blurts this out and then says, "See ya, I'm gonna go back to my base." He was a Air Force something. I don't remember now, but anyway. Enough. I'm having a conversation with the AI that runs ohmTown and not presenting the news from ohmTown. So let's bring you back to the front page like we always do at the end of every show and remind you that there are 6 main categories and the little podcasts category. Once I'm done here, I try to get it posted into YouTube and over to the podcast as soon as possible. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it tonight. But anyway, thanks for hanging out in chat. Thanks for downloading the VOD. Thanks for downloading the podcast. Thanks for going over to YouTube and watching the YouTube and like and subscribe and go and vote at ohmtown.showbot.tv. I'm out of here. You want to say goodnight to everybody?
Good night, ohmTown citizens. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye bye. 9 p.m. Eastern Time.